Shalom, everybody. We're continuing after a long break back in Likutey Halakhot, Rav Noson's discourse called in section Orach called Nefilat Apayim, the laws of falling on one's face after the Amida prayer of Shacharit and of Mincha. Discourse number 4. We're still in paragraph 15. Rav Noson began a very deep research or introspection in the concept of the counting of the Jewish people through the Shkalim, which was, by the way, last Shabbat, Parshat Shkalim. And Rav Nosson goes into why it's such a danger to count Jewish people directly. He goes into the concept of counting, of numbering, as opposed to above numbering, where there's only one. So just to recap, Rav Nosson is getting to say that Hashem and the situation before creation was that there was only one, Hashem. Okay, there was only one, and that's it. It was only after the creation that came into existence the multitude, the many. And they're two opposites. The multitude represents the creation, and the one singular entity existence, that's even hard to say about Hashem because he's above existence, was one. And the goal of this world, of this creation, is to reunite, reconnect the multitude, the many, back to the one, which is the idea of counting the Jews. But since counting, we're going to explain, hopefully Rav Nosson's going to go into this eventually, since counting is involved exclusively in this world, so it's dangerous. That's why it has to be done in a different format. And in this case, the format of giving tzedakah, the shekel coins, is what is able to counter the danger of counting. To explain better, when you are counting, it's showing a connection to and a stressing and a focus on this world exclusively. So that in itself is danger, because you're separating this world from Hashem's oneness. That's why counting, especially Jewish people who are in essence related to Hashem's one, okay? Counting them would in a way separate them from the oneness, because you're counting them. So we have to do it in a format that doesn't cause damage. That's the idea of counting the shkalim, the money of the tzedakah, instead of the Jewish people. Fine. So Rav Nosson though wants to go into this concept and what bridges them. What bridges Hashem's one existence to this world? This is what Rabbi Nachman calls, what the Zohar calls the 9 chambers. 9 chambers is like an interface level between Hashem's oneness and this world. Pretty cool. Everything has to go through these 9 chambers in order to reconnect to Hashem's oneness. In lesson 24 of Likutey Moharan, Rabbi Nachman teaches how tzaddikim, especially the biggest tzaddikim, and even every Jew at his level, can create these 9 chambers, which are like a limbo zone. They're not part of this world, because they're chambers to the infinite light, but yet they're not part of the infinite light because they're the number 9, number being part of this existence. So what's going on? So let's see how Rav Nosson explains this very subtle idea, this subtle detail. But when you understand how this works, you begin to appreciate the system to begin to reconnect to the oneness, okay? Shkalim is counting the Jewish people for specific purposes. And the shekel is called a matkal. The word for a shekel coin, Rav Nosson is going to explain, is similar to that in Hebrew for a scale. A scale is called mishkal, which has the same root as a shekel coin. Mishkal and shekel, okay? What's the idea of a scale? It's tipping or to the right or to the left. Rav Nosson is going to explain that the tipping of the right and to the left is the idea of reaching and not reaching, running forward or being bounced back. And that a person, every day in his life, he has challenges of not knowing when to go forward or when to go back, when to accept the green light to go forward, or when to accept that there has to be a red light now and I have to refrain. It's not easy. That's all of life's tests. And most of people's confusions and frustrations is they don't know if they did the right thing, if they did the right thing in going forward in this way or in refraining. And it's expressed in many, many, many things. Oh, I didn't do right in this decision, or I didn't do right in that. Decisions were, did I go forward or did I not go forward and instead made another move? So it's very it's very it's very frequent in that area. Fine. So let's see how Rav Nosson explains this very subtle idea, which is pertinent to everybody. Ve'elu hatisha hechalin. This is in the middle of paragraph 16. And it's a long paragraph, fine. ואלו התשעה היכלים בשורשם למעלה הם גבוהים ונעלמים מאוד מאוד בתכלית ההלם. These 9 chambers that we mentioned, the 9 chambers, by the way, they're created by when a person is running forward. He has a light, he has happiness in his life, happiness in serving Hashem, and that's pushing him forward. And then he reaches what's called the wall of the Keter, which prevents a person from going further, preventing the person's mind to go and advance. So this wall causes a type of a separation between man, his mind, and the infinite light. So this bounce causes the mind, the person's mind, the mentalities, which are made up of chokhmah, bina, dat. These are 3. They become intermingled, so they become multiplied 3 times 3, creating 9 chambers. These 9 chambers are made when there's a bounce back, when the mind runs into the wall that's going forward, the redifa, the running forward, and then the bounce back is called the me'akev. That's what creates these 9 chambers. So he's saying, Rav Nosson, these 9 chambers, in their root, because they're rooted from the infinite light, because these become vessels to contain within them a glimpse that a person can have of the infinite light, but only a glimpse. Okay? But your person needs vessels for that, and that is created by the mind, by running and then being bounced back. So these 9 chambers, in their root, Rav Nosson explains, their upper root, which is obviously the infinite light, are very high, very, very concealed, but tachlit ha'elim, total concealment that they cannot be grasped. Even though we say 9, which is a number, and we say chambers, which is an existence, still their root is way above that. Because these 9 chambers, and what they're made up of, and what they are expected to contain within them, are called the lights of splendors. Tzachtzachot is a very, very deep concept. Basically, it is the light of splendor that is emitted, that is part of the infinite light. When a person receives a clarity in his life, an opening, shining countenance of God, of openings and clarity after going through so many difficulties and suffering and challenges in life, all of a sudden there's a shining of clarity. That's called Orach Tzachtzachot, which is an emanation of light of the infinite light, of the infinite one. Shehem lemala Sefirot, and they're above the Sefirot. The Sefirot are considered the initial beginning of creation. Hashem initiated 10 Sefirot, and from them emanated all the parts of creation, like the 10 utterances mentioned in Pirkei Avot, that the world was created with 10 utterances, and the Lord said, let there be light, etc. There's 10 of them with Bereshit, and then the 10 commandments, the number 10 appearing again and again in the Torah. So all this starts with the 10 Sefirot. And he's saying these lights of splendor, which are the concept of these 9 chambers, the root of the 9 chambers, are above the Sefirot. That means they're above the creation. Rav Nosson is quoting the Zohar that Rabbi Nachman quotes in his lesson, Likutey Moharan, lesson 24. This is the Zohar from Parshat Noach, page 65:1, in describing these 9 chambers and how they're so ungraspable, even though they're a number, like we said, 9, and even though they're a shape of some existence called a chamber, still, like the Zohar says, no one can stand in them, no one can attach themselves to them, no one can even know them. They're above everything, and yet they're something. They're considered the interface between mankind and God, these 9 chambers. Aval, afal pichen, however, nonetheless, because of the running of the person's mind and then being bounced back, like we mentioned earlier. Okay, through this, the redifa, the running of the mind hits the ma'akev. In other words, the being collided and being refrained from continuing is due to the collision of the redifa, the running of the mind into the wall barrier of the Keter. So that collision creates these 9 chambers. Until they are made to this collision of the mind and the wall of the Keter, as if to say, because this is above our grasp, concepts of chambers in perception of God, in the context of numbering and a numbering system, Mispar minyan, numbering and counting, because there's 9 chambers and they're numbers, and numbers are within creation, whereas above creation, the infinite light is 1, which is before the numbering. There's only one existence. Because again, Rav Nosson like reminds us, Kihem Tishai Chalin, because there are 9 chambers, 9 and chambers, like we said. Ve'elu Tishai Chalin, Shorish Kol Sefirot, Shem Shorish HaMispar VaMinyan. He's saying, Rav Nosson, this interface of these 9 chambers, they're the root of the Sefirot. Sefirot, like we said, are the original levels of energy to create the world, yet they're called Sefirot. And the word Sefirot is similar to the word for counting, numbers. Mispar. Mispar Echad, number 1, Mispar Shtaim. In Hebrew we say Mispar. And Mispar has in its root Sefirot, Sefirot. They say the similar root. So the idea of the Sefirot, he says, that is a counting, they emanate from the 9 chambers. So that means these 9 chambers are some domain, like we said, interface domain between the creation, which starts with the 10 Sefirot, and what's above the creation, which is Hashem's oneness, His uniqueness. There was only one, so we don't count it. It's considered not above the numbering. Because when there's only one thing, you can't say 1. Because as soon as you say 1, that means there can be a 2, there can be a 3. But by Hashem's essence, His infinite light, His infinitiveness, there can't be a number. We call it 1, but really it's above that because there's no numbering yet. And to bridge the two are the 9 chambers created by the running and the collision in the wall, causing the bounce back. That allows for these 9 chambers, which are above grasp, and yet they're called 9, a number, and they're called chambers, which is an existence, an entity called a chamber, and yet they're above it. So it's 2 opposites in one in these 9 chambers. It's amazing what he's going into to show, he's explaining how the connection is made. It's amazing. You would think, okay, this just happens by itself. But he's going into details to explain us about this concept of the 9 chambers being the interface. And now he's adding the point that the root of the numbers. Kihem tishai chalin, ve'elu tishai chalin, shorish kol ha-sefirot, shem shorish ha-mispar v'minyan, like we said. Okay? Ki elu tishai chalin, because these 9 chambers, like we said, hem orot ha-tzachtzachot, shem shorish ha-sefirot kayadua. They themselves represent the light of the splendors, because they contain within them this light. And as is known in the Kabbalah, the orot ha-tzachtzachot, the light of splendor, is the root of the 10 Sefirot. It's above the 10 Sefirot. That was, like we said, Hashem's initiation of shining His light into the creation. That's the stage of the Orot HaTzachtzachot. These are very deep concepts, but the reason why Rav Nosson goes into them, because a Jew in his daily struggles needs access to the Orot HaTzachtzachot, believe it or not. You need access to this high level of light to help you go through the day, to go through the challenges of the day. So he's reminding us, these Orot HaTzachtzachot, they're above the Sefirot as is known, okay? So that matches with the 9 chambers as mentioned earlier. Shemisham nimshachin kol ha-misparim sheba'olam. And from the 10 Sefirot, which is number 10, and Sefirot meaning numbers, from that emanates all the numbers, all the multitude existence of this world. Shem bechinat klalut habriyah, that numbering refers to the whole culmination of the creation. Because in creation, there's many factors. By saying many, that's a multitude already. There's numbering in everything. In the variety of parts of the creation: the grass, the trees, earth, wind, fire, water, mankind. And then in the each species within itself, how many there are, and in the makeup, how many molecules and cells, etc., and atoms. All that is considered a multitude, and all this roots from the 10 Sefirot. That's what they call 10 Sefirot, because they initiate numbering in the world. And these 10 Sefirot emanate from the 9 chambers, which contain within them the light of splendor, which is the infinite light. They're a chamber, a vessel, which is above grasp of shining infinite light into this world. Mr. Hashem will continue hopefully in the next class. I hope you like these classes. If you'd like to pursue more of these ideas, anything related to lesson 24, please go to lesson 24.breslovtherapy, BRESLOV therapy.com. And if you'd like to support our mission in trying to spread Rabbi Nachman's teachings, we're a non-profit organization. You can do so at donate.breslovtherapy.com. Thank you. Shalom. Have an amazing week.